consumed, unimaginative, divided, vain, distant, populist, power-hungry. Well, the descriptions circulating in Great Britain for the ruling Conservatives are a clear sign that 13 years in power and 4 prime ministers overthrown by their own people should actually be enough. A change of government is generally expected in Great Britain in 2024, not least in the ranks of the Conservatives themselves, whose active politicians appear to be more preoccupied with new careers starting next year than with the hapless business of governing. Not so Rishi Sunak, the 5th Conservative Prime Minister in a row, who was elected in 2022, still looks fresh out of the egg at the annual Conservative Party conference and like an aspiring youth who still has his best years ahead of him. It takes a lot to declare all the Labour and Tory governments of the past 30 years an era of stagnation and proclaim a time of change with himself at the helm. But this is also a clever way for Sunak to distance himself from the disastrous governing style of his predecessors in office, and also from the unsavoury performances of many of his current government colleagues, without immediately putting the opposition in a good light. By lumping together the inertia in his own camp and in the opposition, Sunak is setting up a not-so-easy hurdle for his main rival Keir Starmer. He will easily promise even more at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool this week, but the fact that the multicultural reality of Great Britain is embodied much more by the leadership of the Tories than by Labour, well, it deprives the British left of one of the most important areas of attack against the right wing. The next British election campaign will be a battle for credibility, and the more he focuses on the two bosses, the more open the race is likely to be. For both of them, the greatest danger may lie within their own ranks. This Conservative Party conference I talked a lot about this week also made it clear how great this danger is. Britain's ailing Prime Minister is trying to get the party out of the poll bottoms at the Tories party conference in Manchester. However, in one part of the country, he hardly made any friends. Government and private investment in the UK is too weak at the same time, and this means that per capita economic output cannot grow. It is the time of the annual conference of political parties in the UK, but while much of the attention is focused on the governing Tories, many will also be watching Labour closely, as they are now well ahead in the polls. In the weeks leading up to the now ending Conservative Party conference, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak appears to have changed his personal strategy. Instead of presenting himself as competent, confident and unambitious, he is now making bold promises to tackle the country's biggest challenges. But is he serious, or is this just political theatre in view of the elections? Many of you will have a clear answer to that. Sunak ultimately heads a party teeming with factions. Many of them are ideological and they are all marked by the power struggles of the last 13 years. Furthermore, the party's current MPs were elected in 2019 by a strange mix of traditional Tory constituencies and newer Brexit-oriented voters who had previously voted Labour. Both groups like government spending when it benefits them, providing their own tax bills don't go up. So in the run-up to this year's conference in Manchester, some Tories have once again raised the dream of lower taxes, lamenting the tax burden on many households and blaming this perceived problem for the country's weak economic performance in recent years. Cabinet member Michael Gove has even said he supports income tax cuts before the next election, but Sunak and the Chancellor have absolutely ruled this out. Although the tax burden in the UK has increased somewhat in recent years, it is still significantly lower than in other developed countries. According to the UK's financial regulator, the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, the UK's tax rate in 2021 was 33.5% and was 2.2% below the developed world average, 3.3% below the G7 average states and 6.4% below the rate of 14 other European countries, many of which have significantly higher standard of living though. Of the countries wealthier in terms of GDP per capita than the UK, which ranks 22nd, I guess, more have a higher tax burden than a lower one. But not only does the data fail to support the argument that taxes are the main drag on British growth, polls in recent years have also shown that the British electorate generally supports higher taxes for the sake of higher spending. This is a change from the 1990s and 2000s and suggests that higher taxes and spending do not pose the same political risk to an incumbent government. Nevertheless, any Tory leader, no matter how capable, would have difficulty finding his way given his own government decisions since 2010 and the endless internal squabbles they have triggered. After 13 years in opposition, Labour is focused on showing it can manage public finances more competently and deliver more growth. Earlier this year, Labour leader Keir Starmer and his shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves made a policy statement pledging to achieve the fastest growth in the G7. Only one can hope that they will achieve GDP per capita and not mean absolute GDP. They would also strengthen the powers of the OBR, which regularly estimates the costs of government measures and the associated tax policies. This point is important because the OBR was bypassed at the time by former Prime Minister Liz Truss, who almost crashed the economy during her very short time in office. A few weeks ago, Labour went a step further and promised that if it won the election, no major tax or spending decisions would be made without the OBR providing an independent analysis of the impact of the policy, and they mean on growth and public finances. Labour delegates, as I said, will meet in Liverpool this week, and George Osborne, who launched the OBR in 2010 as Chancellor of the Tory-led coalition government, then advised that the Sunak government should immediately adopt the proposal. The idea is highly recommended as a means of strengthening the UK's fiscal credibility. However, unless it leads to more realistic and ambitious tax and spending policies, the impact will still be limited. As the data makes clear, the UK suffers from persistently weak public and private sector investment compared to other countries. Unless that changes, rapid GDP per capita growth will remain a pipe dream. A wise government would stop playing the political game of over-focusing on arbitrary short-term tax rates and instead pursue an agenda that raises those rates with the express aim of increasing capital spending and productivity. Both are necessary to maintain long-term growth and reduce long-term debt. If the OBR's independent analysis concludes that this spending requires higher taxes, then so be it. This will be the ultimate test of the government's seriousness. But government seriousness and Tory is not something that I would have connected in a long time, and so it remains to be seen if they will do anything substantial in their remaining time in office. It's not absolutely sure that Labour will win, but with everything the Tories do at the moment, it is very probable. Let's put it that way. And if you want to see a video with a different topic right now, it's right here in the end screen, together with a button to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet, and a button to my newest channel, which is a totally different topic, but doing very well for a baby channel. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.